Hey there, interactive developers. This is Jack DiLaura reporting live from the virtual news desk of the Interactive and Immersive HQ. As you probably have already guessed, we're going to be building a great virtual production environment and pipeline in Unreal Engine today, where we take a webcam feed and essentially place yourself within this awesome virtual news desk. So it's actually very quick to set up and a ton of fun to mess around with. You finally get a chance to really live out your newscaster dreams and broadcast to the world with this one. Before we dive into our project, we have a little bit of homework to do, which is going to involve downloading a couple of things. So we're going to start in the Unreal Engine Marketplace. Once you've loaded this page up, we're going to go to the search here and type in broadcast. And then hit the search icon. You'll see, at least for me, the first option that came up is this Broadcast Studio by Warren Marshall. Go ahead and download this. It is a free asset that you can download. And once you've downloaded that, we're going to need to create a new project and add this asset to it. Once you have the new project dialog up, we're going to head to the Film and Video and Live Events section and use the blank template. We'll leave the starter content and ray tracing switches off, and then for the project name, I think I'll do something like NDI underscore virtual underscore PROD for production, because we're going to be using NDI to send the video data over. Once we've done that, we're going to hit create. It'll take a little bit probably to compile this, and then we can add those assets in that we've just downloaded from the Unreal Engine Asset Store. So now that that has loaded up, I have brought up the Epic Games launcher again, and I'm going to head down under the Unreal Engine Library tab to the bottom where the vault is, and then I'll see this Broadcast Studio asset has been added down here, which I can then click the Add to Project link on. So that's going to take a second to download for you all, most likely, but you'll need to specify which project you want to add it to, and for me, that is going to be, let's see, NDI underscore virtual production. I've done a couple of tests for this, so obviously there's a couple of things with similar names. Find the one that you've just created, hit add to project, and then you'll, once that is finished downloading, it will be added to the project content in the Unreal Engine editor. And now that we've got that content added to the project, we have to do two more things, and that is to download the special plugin that we're going to need for transmitting video via NDI from OBS, as well as receiving that NDI texture in Unreal Engine. So the Unreal Engine plugin is actually included in the NDI SDK, which you're going to have to download now. I will post the download link in the description below. Basically, you just have to enter in your information, and then you'll end up with an installer file, at which point you can go ahead and install it on your machine. Then locate the folder on your computer where you have installed the NDI SDK, and within that, find the Unreal Engine plugins. On my installation, at least, they're divided up into separate folders for the different versions of Unreal Engine. Go ahead and find the version that corresponds to what you have installed on your computer. I'll go ahead and open that folder, and then we have a folder in here which contains all of the plugin information that is required. So what we actually need to do with this, which is NDI IO on my machine, is to take that and transfer it into the newly created project folder for our Unreal Engine project. So what we're going to have to do is to add a plugins folder to this directory, because we don't yet have one. So I'll type that in, I'll add that folder, and then all I have to do is simply copy and paste this Unreal Engine 5.2 version of this plugin and paste it into that plugins folder. What should happen then is that if I head back to my Unreal Engine editor, I should be able to find on the plugins window the NDI IO plugin that I just added to the project directory. I can click the little checkbox next to that to enable it, and I'll have to then restart Unreal Engine for it to take effect. So Unreal Engine has now restarted. I can search for that plugin within the plugins window again and just ensure that it is indeed enabled. And that means that I am pretty much ready to go in terms of putting the project together in Unreal, but I still have to do a little bit of work with OBS. So OBS, if you're not familiar with it already, is a great tool for recording video on your machine, whether that's a screen capture or your webcam or a combination of the two. It's often used for things like streaming as well. And that is what we're going to use today to pull the image in from my webcam and then transfer that via NDI over to Unreal Engine. However, OBS doesn't come with NDI support out of the box. You actually have to install a plugin to add that to the program. To add NDI support to OBS, we're going to have to install this add-on plugin, which is available on GitHub. I will post the link for this in the description below. We're just going to head to the releases section, where we're going to scroll down and then grab the specific version for whatever type of machine you are running on. For me, I'm using Windows, so I grabbed this Windows x64 installer.exe. Another thing to note is that you're also going to need to download this NDI runtime file and install that as well so that the plugin can function. So I've had to flip my webcam over to this instance of OBS because I can't have it connected to two places at once. And what I've done here is I've set up a video capture device, which I've set to my webcam. It's pulling in the default resolution. And then under the filters settings window, I've added the Nvidia background removal effect filter, which I believe is built into OBS these days. That's just set up with the default settings. And this is an unfortunate point to point out that this is maybe obviously only compatible with NVIDIA graphics cards and not something that necessarily every machine is just going to be able to run. So if you don't have an NVIDIA card, you can try using other post effects to remove the background. The OBS website, which again I'll add to the description below, has a bunch of different resources and add-ons that you can add to the program. You also don't have to use OBS in this project either. Anything that can output via NDI, including Touch Designer, can be used, and you could use Touch Designer to apply post effects to your webcam signal instead, and then route that into Unreal Engine. So anyways, if you have an NVIDIA card and you want to set it up like I have here, just add the NVIDIA background removal effect filter. And then what we're going to have to do after that is hit under the tools drop down, the NDI output settings a second time, and turn the main output checkbox off for a moment. The reason that we have to do this is that under the settings window, we have to use a specific color mode under the Advanced tab, a color format under the video section here called BGRA 8-bit, and that is going to enable us to have an alpha channel along with our video signal. So normally we're not recording transparency into the image that we're going to be sending over NDI, and by setting this color format to BGRA, we now have the ability to attach the alpha to that signal as well. So after that, you can hit OK and then turn the NDI output back on. And with that, we have all of our kind of homework and initial steps taken care of. We can head into Unreal and start the main part of the project. Here we are back in Unreal Engine. We're currently looking at the empty level that we initially created. And if we take a look in the content browser, you'll notice we have the Broadcast Studio folder here as well. If we double click on the Broadcast Studio folder, we can then head into the maps folder and then find the showcase level. So this is what we're actually going to use as our scene. So I'm going to double click on that, which will bring us straight into the same environment that we saw in the intro of the video. So I can see that we need to rebuild the reflection captures of our project. So I'm going to head under the build menu here to build reflection captures, click that, and then when that is complete, we will move on to adding the NDI receiver to our project. Okay, great. So that is now complete. Assuming that we have the NDI plugin correctly installed and activated, we should now be able to click on the quick add button up here at the top and see an NDI category. We're going to be receiving a texture from OBS, so we want the NDI receive actor. And I'm going to click on that, which will add it to our scene. This is actually going to eventually display the output of our camera feed. And so this is going to be our sort of two-dimensional stand-in in the scene. So what I want to do here is to position this so that it is roughly on top of one of these seats. Another thing I'm going to do here, since my camera speed is a little bit fast, I'm going to click on this icon and reduce that a little bit to maybe 1/3 of that initial setting. So I'm just going to move this over manually and kind of get it into position. Another thing I can tell right away is that our texture is actually facing the wrong direction. So if I look at the back of it here, we have the black side on the back of that texture, so we need to reverse the orientation. And in the Z rotation parameter, I can just hit or enter in -90 to reverse that. Now it's facing the correct way, and it's actually a little bit out of place. I want it to be a little bit behind the desk, so I'm going to shift it back in space a little bit, and then roughly centered over this left chair. So something about here. Of course, we can always come back and change this later, so it's not super crucial that we have this correct at the moment. Once we've got that complete, we can then come in to the details window where we need to set up a media source for this receiver. If we click on this none dropdown, we can see that we have the ability to create a new asset, which is called an NDI media receiver. So this is not to be confused with the NDI receive actor. This media receiver is what is actually going to grab that texture and then provide it to this actor to display in our scene. So let's go ahead and click on the create new asset option there. So this is going to ask us for a location to save the file and also a name. I'm going to leave it in the content folder. That's fine. But I am going to change the name here to read OBS underscore NDI media receiver, because we are grabbing that information from OBS. I'll hit save, and then we can see we have a new item added to our content browser. And then I'm going to double click on the OBS NDI media receiver, which is going to open an external window where we can take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So what we now have is a couple of parameters that we're going to set to specifically pull this texture in from the source that we want. So under this details tab, we have some connection settings which we can adjust. If we click this little drop down for the connection settings, we can see we have a bunch of things we can manipulate, including a source name. However, Unreal will helpfully, or the plugin rather, will helpfully automatically give us access to whatever connection it can find locally. And so on my computer, I can see that my OBS instance is showing up. So if I click this, it's going to automatically fill that information in for me. And then if I was to hit play on my scene, let's see, it should hopefully bring that camera feed in. Maybe I might have to actually save and click open on this first. So let's try that. So I'm going to hit save this asset and then open, and we'll see. There we go. Great. So you can see by saving that and then hitting open, I've now brought that camera feed in, and it does indeed have the background cut out from it and the the alpha channel is being sent as well. Otherwise, we would see a kind of black outline around me. So while I'm here, I can see that my resolution is 640 by 480, which means that my aspect ratio is actually 1.33 to 1. And that's important to note because after I close out this window, this NDI receive actor is actually set up right now for a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, and thus it's going to stretch my image. So what I'll do here is set the frame width to 133.33 and then hit enter, and that'll give me the correct aspect ratio. If I then hit play, there I am composited into the scene. So obviously I still need a little bit of adjustment in terms of my positioning, but we are indeed getting a texture with alpha brought into the program via NDI. So now let's exit play mode for a moment. I'm just going to adjust the positioning of this again and see if this looks a little bit better. Another thing that I want to do is to add a quick cinema camera to the scene so that we are looking through a camera with a little bit more settings and options like depth of field, etc. So this is looking good position-wise, at least from this particular camera angle. But let's go ahead and add that additional camera now. So to place a camera at my current position, I'm going to click this drop down up here in the top of the viewport, where we then have a create camera here option. And then I'm going to grab the create cinema camera actor option. So we now have a cinema camera located at the exact position that I am within the scene. I might want to manipulate that a little bit because it's, I think, a little bit close to the desk. We don't really get to see all that much of our scene. To reposition the camera quickly and easily, what I'll do is click this perspective option, switch to the cinecamera actor 0. You'll see we're now piloting that actor, and I can then move it in space and kind of reposition as needed. It's also possible to, of course, use the details window over here to then further kind of adjust that to your liking. So once you've done that and you hit play, you'll notice that right away we head straight back to the default camera. So we're going to then have to set up a quick blueprint to switch us automatically to that cinecamera. For that, we need to edit our level blueprint, which I'll do via clicking this blueprints dropdown. We can then click open level blueprint, and that'll bring up one of our node graphs. First of all, I need the event called begin play. So I'm going to type in event here after right clicking and then grabbing the begin play event, which means anytime that I hit this play button, it will then trigger this functionality. Next, we'll drag off from this pin here to place a new node. We're going to have to turn the context sensitive switch off for a second. And then we're going to type in set, and then we need set space view space target. We want this set view target with blend node. So I'm going to click that to add it to our node graph here. Then we need to set a target as well as a new view target. So what I'll do for the target is to drag off, again, to place a new node. I'll turn the context sensitive switch back on, and then I'll type in player, and we want to get player controller. So that's the node we're going to add there. We want the player controller at player index 0, so that is already set up and ready to go. And then for the view target, just to make things a little bit easier, what I'll do is make sure that we have the cinecamera actor selected over here in the outliner, and then we can drag off of the new view target pin. And what we should see, I guess it's not popping up here, but okay, let's do this a different way instead. If we just right click in the background instead, then we can automatically create a reference to the cinecamera actor 0. We can then connect that to this new view target pin, and with that, we should be all set to go. I just want to make sure that I then compile and save this so that we can use this within our level. So then I'll close this, And if we hit the play button, what we should see is that now when I'm in the play mode, we are looking through the cinecamera, which we can tell because we have this kind of letterboxing effect on the left and right. So the rest is up to you. You can continue working with the camera to get your positioning a little bit better. I would highly recommend experimenting with the camera because you actually have a bunch of different post-processing options with the cinecamera that are turned on, or available rather, by default, and you can find those in the details window under post-process. The other thing that you can, of course, do is play around with this scene. You don't have to keep any of these default assets. You can play around with the actual content that is being displayed on these monitors. So however you decide to take it forward, I hope that this has been a quick and fun tutorial that will get you excited for experimenting with some of these virtual production techniques on your own. With that, we're going to close out the video. So thank you so much for watching. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video here on the Interactive and Immersive HQ.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you like our YouTube content, I highly recommend you check out the Interactive and Immersive HQ Pro. The HQ Pro is the only comprehensive educational resource and community for immersive design, touch designer, and creative tech pros. In the HQ Pro trainings, we cover almost any topic you can think of, and we go way more in depth than we do in our YouTube tutorials. We have a private group where Matthew Reagan, myself, and our other industry veteran and pioneer teachers answer your questions every single day. If that sounds cool, click the link in the description to learn more. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more free touch designer and immersive content.